friends, I'm David. I'm here in the Kyser warehouse and just taking an opportunity to share with you a little bit about my experience with capos and all that they can do for us as guitar players. Man, I can remember growing up hearing some guys occasionally say, you know, that capo, man, that's a cheater bar. You know, like if you're going to be a good guitar player, you can't use one of those. But I've learned through the years, man, a capo is an incredible tool. I love how Phil Keaggy once said, when a guy confronted him about his capo and said, "That's cheating, Phil." And Phil said, "So are frets," right? So I'm like, hey, we're going to use every tool available to us in the process of playing and being an artist, a musician. And so the thing I've loved about capos ever since I became exposed to them, and especially the Kyser capo early in my playing years back in high school, it's just the simple fact, first of all, it gave me the opportunity to experiment with different keys to sing songs in. I've always loved singing. I've been a worship leader for years, and so there are times it's just like, you know what, that song's a little bit low. Maybe I want to sing it in a little bit higher key, and I'll give you examples of that in a few moments. But another thing too is the capo has actually helped me to discover different timbres of my guitar and instrument. As I put a capo on different spots in the neck and play in keys that I'm familiar in playing in, sometimes I find, man, I didn't know that my guitar kind of had that inside, and it brought a new level of creativity. Sometimes it brought ideas for songs, just to write some new songs. And also something we'll talk about in later videos is it also allowed me to have a lot of creativity with other acoustic players or electric players in the band, realizing that, hey, if I'm not capoed, then maybe my electric player or my acoustic two player in the band could go into a capo position, and we get a whole new voicing that makes things a lot more musical. And we're going to explore those things. The first thing I'd like to do, though, is to talk to you about what if you've never had a capo before in your life. Maybe you got one for Christmas or your birthday, and you're like, what do I do with this thing, right? What is this all about? Well, like I said, we can do a lot of creative things with it, but the first thing we need to know is how do we even put it on the guitar? Because if I don't put it on properly, chances are I may have a dissatisfying experience. And so I just want to walk you through that. Just some simple steps to how do I use this capo on my guitar. So the first thing is, right out of the gate, has nothing to do with the capo at all, has everything to do with being in tune. I've got my tuner here on the headstock. I just tuned up, and I want to make sure that my guitar is in tune. And so there we are, we're in tune. Now I know, okay, I'm going to use the capo. So the capo, basically, as we approach it, we want to squeeze it wide open. I always kind of tell some of my students it's like a big alligator mouth. I want that mouth all the way open. And then I'm going to put it on the guitar neck at any particular fret that I want. But I want to make sure that it lands just behind the fret, not on top of the fret wire, but just behind that fret, because that's kind of the ideal position for our fingers anyway as we're chording. And so I'm going to put it right there as well. It's a good position. So right behind that fret wire. If I was going to use it at the 4th fret, I would do the same thing. I'm going to slide up and I'm going to come down. Now, again, I'm squeezing good and tight so that that mouth is wide open. It's hovering over those strings, and then I'm going to release it so that it sits nicely on the strings just behind that fret wire. Now, the other thing I want to be careful about doing, and I've seen this a lot with people, is that if they're not opening it wide, then they will begin to slide the capo across the strings, and they will begin to pull strings down. And what I'm doing right now, I can see I'm already pulling my 6th string E down just a little bit, and maybe my A string. Well, what that ends up doing is I'm bending the string, and by bending the string, I'm actually taking my guitar out of tune. That's making that E sound a little bit sharp. And so, again, a good wide open mouth of the capo, it comes in, it sets down right behind the fret wire, directly down on the strings, and that gives me a good sound. And so I can pick up there in the key of G. My guitar was in tune, and I'm still in tune because I've placed the capo properly just behind the fret wire and making sure that mouth was wide open. Now let's talk a little bit about that whole idea of what if I have a song in a particular key and it's just not necessarily the key I want to sing it in. Let's take, for example, just the simple old hymn, Amazing Grace. Let me just sing a little bit of that. I'm going to sing it in the key of D, just a touch of that. So we got Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Now that's real comfortable for my vocal range. But maybe I'm thinking, you know, I'm going to be singing in a venue where I need to be able to project that a little bit more. I need a little bit higher key. So what I can do is take my capo and I'm just going to drop it onto the 2nd fret, just behind the 2nd fret wire. That's going to take me up a half step and another half step, a whole step. So I'm going from the D key into technically E because I've moved up a whole step. I'm going to still use chords that look like D, but now it sounds like E. There's the D with the capo on the 2nd. There's an open E chord. So you see, we're in the same key, just looks a little bit different fingering wise. So I'm going to put that on. Now I'm going to sing a little bit of the song again in the new key. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. So I'm going to stop, and already I can feel I've just got a little bit more power and lift in my voice. So what would happen if I took it up 2 more frets? You're going to say, please don't. But no, let's go there. Let's just see what happens, okay? And if I screech, then I know I've gone too far. So here we go. So now I've gone up a whole nother step, okay? And so let's see what happens. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. So now I'm getting even more power out of my voice. It's not beyond my range as far as the high notes. So that might be great for a venue, especially if I'm not mic'd. My voice could project, but also maybe it fits my voice range better. So you can see just by moving the capo around, I can experiment with different keys to sing in. Now I would never sing the song Amazing Grace probably in the key of G. That's pretty crazy high for me. So I'm just gonna experiment in other keys, but I could, now this may be weird, but maybe all you know to do right now is play in the key of G, okay? So if I do, Amazing grace, how sweet the sound, that's decent, that saved a wretch like me. So I'm getting up there, but I'm thinking, man, that feels just a touch too high. Well, if I go up 2 frets, it's gonna be higher, right? Another 2 frets may be higher, but there kind of comes a point where I cross a line where it's actually going to pitch it where I can sing it lower. So I'm way up the neck, but amazing grace, how sweet the sound. So now I'm back in a singable key. So even if all I know is how to play in the key of G, I can move up and down the neck and find a sweet spot maybe to sing some of my favorite songs. So I've given you a little bit of information, a little bit of explanation. So here's what I want you to do is to experience some things. Turn this video off, and what I'd love for you to do is get your capo out, maybe pick a couple of your favorite songs, and maybe you've always sung them in this one key that you found online. You found a guitar chart for the song, you've just played it because you just thought that's the only key I can sing it in, that's what the chart says. Play around with it, break the rules, move the capo around and see if you can sing in a different key, not technically, but you maybe know how to play the song in the key of D, but you're moving it up and down, so you are changing keys. Maybe you'll find a sweet spot for that song that you just thought it's too low for me to sing or it's too high for me to sing. Experiment, and then the next time we'll take it a little bit further in what we can do with the Kyser Capo.